Good morning and welcome to the debate show. It is Saturday to well, I gotta keep looking at it's the 20th of Saturday, September. I am your host, BA. I have with me my crew, James, J Train Martin, and Jack Hurst. How are you guys doing this morning? Welcome to the
Good morning.
debate show.
Well,
We are going to start off with what is real popular now in the NFL, and it goes back and forth with many people. Should a tush push be banned? Let's start with you.
yeah, that should be banned. I mean, I'm sick of it, but there should be a date where it's banned. Obviously, you keep it the rest of the season. The Philadelphia Eagles made the tush push famous because they do it better than the other teams. So you could have an argument, let the other teams catch up and do it as well as the Eagles. But there's so many elements to it. When the Eagles played the Chiefs, I mean, they were offside. I mean, I even saw Landon Dickerson go offside. One of the other Eagle players was offside during the tush push. The tush push seems nearly impossible to stop as it is if it's executed correctly. And I just don't like it. They do have rules in sports where they do change if one player or one situation can dominate another so much. They changed the rules because of Will Chamberlain coming down the lane at the time. They changed some rules, I believe, with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I mean, we do change rules from time to time. The baseball pitching mound, they changed the rule because Bob Gibson, the way he threw from the top of the mound. And there's nothing wrong with changing rules. I mean, they're not etched in stone. I mean, people get insulted when rules get changed. I mean, haven't we hear something, records are made to be broken, rules are made to be adjusted at times. And last but not least, and then I'm going to turn it over to James, as a safety factor. You get caught in the middle of the tush push, you're in the middle, you're going to get crunched. You're sardine in with big guys. I mean, and in football changes rules on kickoffs because of the safety element. They changed completely the rules on the kickoffs because of safety. But they changed rules to protect the quarterbacks because of safety. But this push, I mean, it's just as hazardous as anything else. A guy could break a leg, an arm very easily. You got to ban it. Go to the traditional handoffs or traditional quarterback sneaks. Nothing matter with that. That's what was used all the years until they found a way to get around that with the tush push.
Tush push should not be banned. I'm going to tell you why. I mean, you're talking about injuries, Jack. You're talking about the safety. Let me tell you about injuries. The Saints had nothing to do with the tush push last year, and they had a 43% rate of injuries, and they had nothing to do with the tush push. It shouldn't be banned. It's an advantage. It's something that was discovered at some point. I don't know by who, but made great by the Eagles. I'm just saying you have things that are people pioneer things all the time. I mean the iPhone. I mean, and people try to copy it and mimic it, but the person typically who's a pioneer usually gets the recognition for it. Let me just say that the Eagles have figured out a way. They got the great personnel for it. They have the offensive line to get it done. They got the quarterback to get it done. Buffalo does it as well. And if it was really that bad, I think all teams would have voted to ban it out. There's clearly teams that want it because they think either they can try it themselves or it's just something to have an advantage of. And if they were to come up with something, they wouldn't want it to be banned or taken away because they have that advantage. So I just think it's disingenuous for the NFL. Like say for instance, the NFL, I know they want to get rid of it because it's comprised of other teams that can't do it or they've been beaten by it. And I just think that they this recently that they put it out there that they need to officiate them a little tighter because some of those guys are offsides. Maybe so, if that's the case, but it's just another step in the direction that they're trying to they're showing their hand. They really don't like it because they have a disadvantage because they can't either mimic it or they've been beaten by it. So no, it should not be banned. It's just something that uh, I don't think it's a problem because again, one team has an advantage with it. They won a Super Bowl with it, and that's what got everybody up in arms. Got everybody's panties in a bunch. And I don't know if I can say that online. I just did. Too bad. I'm sorry.
I love the way you use the Saints as an example. I mean, the Saints don't execute anything well, so you're not talking to me. The Saints with the tush push over there. Saints aren't in position to ever use the tush push. They usually don't have the ball near the goal line. I don't want to hear about the Saints.
But let me say this: the guy who, right, exactly. But the guy that's coaching the team was the offensive coordinator for the team that did the tush push. So eventually, they may end up doing it once they get the personnel. They just don't have the quite the personnel about like the Eagles does. So let me see what he said to Jack's point about changing the rules. The rules was changed to allow the runner to be,
You can't
exactly.
to push a runner forward. It's like a runner in a track meet starting to flounder, let's say in the marathon, right before he or she gets to the finish line, and another competitor from their nationality, their team, helping drag them across the line. That wouldn't be allowed. You can't aid someone that way. It's like in baseball. Can you imagine the third base coach aiding a guy at the home plate because the runner falls down or whatever, helping him up? I mean, I just, and the safety factor can't get overestimated enough, underestimated, however you want to say it. We're constantly looking to make the game safer because it's a serious game. Guys get hurt, they're long-term effects. And the tush push really is a hazardous thing to do. I mean, if clotheslining a player was allowed, let's say someone on a defensive unit, a player specialized in clotheslining an opponent the way they did in the past, and they changed that rule, you'd be here complaining, oh no, just because he does it well, because he knows how to stop the ball carry with a
Jack, don't give me that. Don't give me that, Jack. There's no way you can compare a clothesline, a wrestling move to rugby. I mean, ultimately, we're talking about rugby. These guys are just pushing the ball, pushing the line forward, and pushing for 1 or 2 yards. It's not that serious. I think it's that serious because teams can't mimic it. I think that's the biggest thing. They can't do it. These guys have found a way to have a niche. And that's the thing about the league. If you have a niche, fans love that. Either you love to hate it or you love to love it. If you're a fan of the Eagles and they're getting it done, fine, you love it. If you're not a fan, if you're in the division and you're a Giants fan, a Cowboys fan, or a Commanders fan, you don't love it because you hate that team. But that's what brings about great drama to the game. I think it's just you got to leave that in there for that factor alone, because you start taking away from the things that you're talking about. Say, for instance, injuries and stuff like that. I mean, again, injuries are going to happen no matter what, and they do. They happen way more for other reasons than the tush push. You can't blame the tush push for the injuries. And that being said, I'm just going to say that there's no way that you take this thing away, because ultimately, if we're talking about the injuries, we're going to be headed to flag football at some point. Because I mean, at some point, this is just a violent sport. It is what it is. I get it. You're trying to figure out ways to be more safe, but banning the tush push is not going to help that.
If I had to negotiate, okay, if I'm going to bypass the safety factor and I'm going to allow the tush push to be used, I'm going to modify the rule. I'm very creative in this way. You have to announce you're going to use the tush push the same way you have to announce you're going to do an onside kick now. It has to be announced now. So the team has to say, we're using the tush push, and the team on defense, I'm going to allow to even the playing field. They can bring in 2 additional players. So they're +2. Like in hockey, they have a man goes to the penalty box, you're playing with one more player. So they can add 2 players to the defensive front, the other team, and then we'll see how much they're going to want to use the tush-push with 2 extra players. Even
Jack,
the playing field.
I like you, my guy. I like you a lot, man. But you're pushing the Disney characters here because that's goofy. That's goofy, goofy, goofy. I'm just gonna tell you, they already show that they're doing the tush push. You know they're doing it. That's the thing. They just can't stop it. The formation tells you automatically what they're about to do.
And it's not fair. If you can't stop it, it's not
right,
fair.
Richard. He just said exactly what I said. They announce exactly what it is when they put the formation in place. You know what's going to happen. They just can't stop it. They just can't stop it. And I get it. It's not
even with talented players. You take an all-star defensive front, an all-star defensive unit against the Eagles tush push. They still probably can't stop it.
My problem with that argument is that if there's so much leverage, why haven't other teams mastered it? That's the thing. That's where that's why I have to disagree with it. I mean, Judge, is the court adjourned? I mean, what's going on? Tell us, what do you say?
No, I'm saying if you lined up Myles Garrett, Aiden Hutchinson, the Bosa brothers, etc., they wouldn't be able to stop the tush push.
And that's not true. The tush push has been stopped many times. The succession rate is high, yes. However, it has been stopped quite a few times. In fact, the team that was the first one to start banning it or wanted to ban it was Green Bay. And Green Bay has been the most successful at stopping it. Buffalo was another team that wanted to ban it, but they do the same thing at about as high as a completion rate for a tush push. And tush push, come on. Tush push is an overglorified quarterback sneak. That's all the tush push is. You got to learn to beat that system. Injuries are a part of the game. It's football, Jack. It's football. Anytime you step on that field, you have a chance for an injury. So, I mean, it's football. That's just the way that's going to end up being. But as far as the tush push is concerned, no, it can't be banned. I agree with what the Lions head coach Dan Campbell said. If you just got to find a way to stop it. It's part of football. Don't be a sore sport because you can't stop it. Find a way to do it. And I think that's what's going on with all these teams. They don't want to do it, and they think it's a disadvantage. Well, I mean, so is a forward pass. We got over that, didn't we? I mean, it's you just got to stop stuff, Jack, in the NFL. And if you can't, well, you're just going to be a victim. So either stop it or, I just don't see I don't understand this whole, well, we got to ban the tush push. Oh, let's ban a forward pass. Let's ban screens. I mean, I think the onside kick rule is stupid too. I don't think nobody should be sitting out there saying, "Oh, we're gonna do the tush push." No, come on. It's bad enough they got to do that with onside kicks, and that's stupid too. It's not the element. It's an element of surprise. If you can't do it,
but there's a difference. The tush push has. I don't know what the percentage of success is. Teams running it, but like you said, it's on the plus side. The onside kick has only something like a 7% chance of succeeding. That's why they changed the rule. And even then, they're only going to make 1 of 10 onside kicks. I mean, it's a long shot. They should do away with the onside.
But even with that, kick. Jack, if you have to announce it, that percentage goes all the way down to like 0.5% because people are expecting it. New Orleans did that in the Super Bowl. Did Indianapolis expect it? Heck no, they didn't. So it's an advantage of surprise. Football is a game of chess, basically. You got to know what's going on in the game. And if you're going to try to put all these rules, it's bad enough they've already hampered the defense for football. And like James said, it's going to be flag football pretty soon if you keep doing all this stuff. What's the point?
Well, you know that's in football on a field goal, and I don't mean to get off the topic at all. When was the last time you saw a fake field goal? You know, they line up the the holder gets up, throws a pass. I don't remember seeing one in the last 2-3 years or whatever. When was the last
I
time
think
it
you're
was
right. I think
attempted?
it's been a while. I
It's
think it's
been
been
a
a
while.
while.
Well, that's
I
because
have no
people don't have to be creative
recollection.
on offense no more because you have no defensive calls. I mean, if you throw a pass now and a defender sneezes on a receiver, they're going to get called for pass interference. It's because of those things that a lot of stuff is disappearing. The last time I saw a fake field goal was by the Lions, and that was about you're right, about 2 or 3 years ago with a kicker Prater threw a touchdown pass.
Dan Campbell tried that.
Yeah, that was the
last
first
one I
year.
recall.
Dan Campbell. So I've
Yeah.
seen those, and I think that was like one of like 3 that happened that year too. Because I saw a couple of other fake field goals, one for a first down and another one for I think it was another touchdown on other teams. But those kind of creative plays go away once you don't have to worry about the defense no more. When you have defensive rules being X'd out of the game, you don't have to worry about doing that stuff. No, there's no way to. You don't have to worry about generating points because you can generate points just by throwing a ball up to a receiver and hoping that the cornerback, like I said, sneezes, brushes up against them or whatever the case may be, and they'll get the penalty for that. Well, then why do they need to do all that extra stuff for? Why do they need to be creative for? And that's what I think that takes away from this game. But that's my opinion. But yeah, I don't think the tush should be banned, Jack. Sorry.
Well, we'll see. It came 2 votes. To end the topic, it came 2 votes short of being banned. It's going to be interesting how the vote's going to go in the off season.
Yeah, I mean, if they start stopping it more, they still need a percentage of teams to say no. So, and that hasn't happened. That's the reason why it hasn't got banned yet. I don't think it's going to improve, to tell you the truth. I think they're just going to say, you know what, whatever. Okay, next topic. Who currently is the best, not necessarily the most accomplished coach in the NFL? James, go for it.
Yeah, with this list, with this question, I have a list, and I'm going to give
come
you.
on, Jay, get one guy. Don't give me your 5 guys or whatever.
You know me, Jack. I gotta give you 5. I gotta have you Reid, Jim Harbaugh, Sean McVay, and Kyle Shanahan, and threw in Nick Sirianni. But I'm gonna go with Jim Harbaugh. I just think that regardless of the other guys where you're looking at, like you said, accomplishments and everything like that, I think he's on the upward trajectory to be successful again. Obviously, he's been accomplished before, but we're not trying to go off of that. We're just looking at what he's done last year when he first came in and what he's done now. And it's just been going straight up. And, so, I think that Jim Harbaugh has looked like, to me, he's the best coach because he knows what to do with very little, that he has. They didn't really have a lot to work with, and now they're a little bit better with the personnel, and they're even better now. I just think, and he's rejuvenating Justin Herbert's career as well. I just think that Jim, to me, it's like a 1A, 1B. I'm not going to say he's the best. I like some of these other guys. Kevin O'Connell, Matt LaFleur, McVay, even Mike Tomlin. I'm just, even though they're 1-1 right now, but I just think, to me, Jim Harbaugh is the best right now, and I think he's on an upward trajectory to be highly successful. And and Kyle Shanahan, even with what he's worked with, when you looked at what they've done this year. So I would say those guys are in that mix, but to me, the best would be Jim Harbaugh. I don't have to beat this, into the ground.
Jim Harbaugh is a good choice. I'm not going to criticize you and say how you can pick him. He's certainly someone to be seriously considered, even though, I find it a little fascinating that after just 2 games, you feel he's brought Justin Herbert all the way back because Herbert's looked good in a couple of games. But knowing Jim Harbaugh's history, chances are Harbaugh is back. But we need a little more of a body of work to see as the season goes along. I'm a little surprised he didn't go for your guy Sean Payton, at New Orleans. Even though you didn't mention him, he rates high on the list. Sometimes in all sports, we hold it against a coach that traditionally wins all the time with a powerful team. And I'm not referring to Andy Reid. I'm thinking of Nick Sirianni, a young coach right now who could maybe relate a little better to players. And Nick Sirianni has gotten that Eagle team to buy in. They might not like it, but he's got control. Like A.J. Brown, one of the best receivers in the NFL, he's hardly seeing the ball, but he's not complaining, has no choice but to buy in. Devontae Smith, who should be taking the next step as one of the best receivers in the NFL, has kind of been held back because of the Eagle culture, winning culture under Nick Sirianni. And we said it's not necessarily accomplishment, even though they've went to the Super Bowl 2 to 3 last years. It's the middle year where the team floundered and he got them back on track and he got them all to buy in, to what he's doing. And they mastered the tush push. Does he have anything to do with that? The culture, the team, and everything. And I think he's a player's coach. I mean, there's not dissension there. And Jalen Hurts, maybe that's the best example of all. Jalen Hurts, second-round draft pick, who I liked a lot coming out of college. This is just me, but I never thought you'd be talking about Jalen Hurts as maybe a top 5 quarterback in the league, maybe 5th best. You can make an argument for him. But here he is, Jalen Hurts, going to 2 Super Bowls, Super Bowl MVP. The real leader of that team commands the most power. It's just the culture set. And it's easy to say, well, the Eagles have the most talent, this. But they have a real winning culture. And he's a young guy. And Jim Harbaugh, excellent choice. But Jim Harbaugh still, let's see him take the next NFL step. Keep in mind, it took him a long time to get it done at Michigan. And people were questioning whether Harbaugh was the right guy in Michigan for a little while. Remember that? Until they finally win the national championship. And for Harbaugh to just go to the playoffs every year, if he doesn't get to a Super Bowl, it's iffy. You could say John Harbaugh if you want. Technically, they've always been consistent to Ravens. But I'm going to go with Nick Sirianni. And it's not based on accomplishment, it's just part of it. But I think a young coach relating to the player and then buying in.
You forget Jim Harbaugh did get to the Super Bowl with San Francisco, so he got them there.
I mean, with the Chargers, yeah.
Yeah, and I think there may be a great opportunity to get there. It's just a matter of, like you said, there's only been 2 games. And let's go back to Sirianni. We've got to hold him accountable. I mean, the season before last year wasn't great at all. As a matter of fact, they were going down the tubes. The last 5 games. And so everybody wasn't quite bought in. And even last year, we're going to look at A.J. Brown studying for his dissertation on the sideline. So, I mean, he wasn't quite bought in as well because he was a little probably upset that he wasn't getting the ball. So we'll see how long that lasts this season when he's so-called bought in and starts pulling out his book and, putting his thinking cap on, with the what do you call it? The long
the cone.
Well, you reel them back in, but you reel players that have dissension. If you reel them back in, that's the sign of a good coach. And he reeled AJ Brown's not happy. I can tell you this now. Not knowing AJ Brown, I'd venture a huge bet he's not happy right now. He's not happy. But the sign of a good coach, it's the team. You've got to do whatever you have to do, even if you're not seeing the ball. And he has command, Nick Sirianni.
Winning cures all. I want to see what happens when they start losing, if they lose a few games. This is where you see the character of a man, if he stands and just say, okay, I'm going to continue to do what we were doing until we can try to win. And if we can't, I'm still bought in. So we'll see if they're bought in if they start losing.
When you're not winning, you start throwing the ball more.
We'll see.
Nick, let me say something about Nick Sirianni. You had a point there, Jack, about when they get away, the players get away from something, he reels them back in, which is a sign of a good coach. The sign of a good coach is not to have that problem in the first place. Dan Campbell is the example. I'm sorry. I got to go with Dan Campbell. The dude's improved that team every year. So, and there's no dissension among players on that team. They might act a little goofy outside the football sometimes, but other than that, he'll tell them too. You keep acting like that, you're gone. He has no problem telling people, you know, if you can't fit into this culture or this system, you can't be here, period. And it's to the frustration of a lot of Lions fans because there's a lot of players that they want that think make the team better. And that happens. But the dude he's all grit. He'll sit there and tell you straight out. He's transparent. Nick Sirianni, he's the one who yells at his own fans. He they have dissension in the locker room. Yeah, and if you hear about stuff like that, whether it's true or not, you're still hearing about it. It's still coming outside the locker room. So somebody's doing something there. And that means your coach is not holding it down. And if he's got to reel him back in, is he really a good coach? Or is he just a product of the players that are around him? See, Nick Sirianni, to me, I think he's a good coach. I'm not saying he's a bad coach. He keeps that team together, but he has to keep that team together. Whereas Dan Campbell doesn't have to do that because everybody's bought into that system. You know, so it's the same thing with Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh's the same way. He did it at Michigan. He didn't play all that BS. If you don't want to be on this team, get out. And it's the same thing he's done with the Chargers. If you don't want to be on this team, you can hit the road. Good coaches do that. They're transparent. They let you know this is what we're doing here.
It is, but sometimes you have diverse personalities that you got to reel back in. Just different type of people on the team. I don't know the Lion players, their personalities. It might be a little more laid back. The Eagle personalities, when you have an A.J. Brown, you have, like I said, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, different personalities. Saquon Barkley, you'll never have to reel back in. It's his personality. If he's not getting the ball, you deal with it. It becomes more challenging. And some families, they love one another, but they're arguing all the time. You see them arguing in public, and you feel, they're not close. They hate one another, but that's not the case. I mean, listen, Jim Harbaugh is a great choice. Don't get me wrong. A great, great choice. I think the best answer, or who's going to be a better coach, him or Sean Payton, might be told this year who has the better year, because Denver's certainly ready to win. The Chargers were ready to win as well, but Denver was made a slight favorite over the Chargers head-to-head. If you're going to say going into the year who was going to have more success, if Harbaugh takes the team to the Super Bowl, there could be no doubt. Guys, let me ask you guys this. How are we taking Andy Reid for granted?
No. I told you my list, and I had those two circled as my top two. And so I even though they're 0-2, you still can't count them out at all. You have to be afraid, like, okay, what are they going to counter with? What are they going to do to get back to where they are? Because greatness is there, and the evidence, there's 3 Super Bowls, and they could have went to 4 if they didn't lose to the Bengals, And so I just think that R5, if they won the last Super Bowl, they just a great team, and their window is still open because I just think that they have issues with the wide receiver room right now, and once they get that straight.
We're
They're
talking
going to
about
be
Andy
back.
Reid. We're talking about
No,
Andy
I'm
Reid.
just saying him as a coach, he's going to find ways to win, regardless of the personality.
He went to one with the Eagles. Let's give him his props there.
He didn't win one with the Eagles. Oh, he went to 4. He went to 4. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Yes, I would. I love Andy Reid, and I think he's a great coach. He's going to go down probably as the first ballot Hall of Famer when he's done. I think one of the best coaches. No, he's not underrated, and I don't think it should be played as I'm trying to figure out the word here. We shouldn't feel that he's underrated at all. That's what I'm saying.
I can say one thing. This will be my closing remarks on the topic. If we had a debate on this question 1 year ago, my selection would have been Mike Tomlin. So it shows you the way stock could drop for a coach in the NFL. And I don't think I still think he's a heck of a coach. Don't get me wrong. Who I would hire if I was an owner, I would unhesitatingly hire Mike Tomlin. But I don't think he's going to be the Steeler coach next year when all is said and done. But just the idea that he would have been my guy 1 year ago, and I'm not even considering him this year, says the way fortunes can change.
I mean, if I had to name top 10 coaches that right now, I still would put Mike Tomlin in that top 10, of the list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Tomlin, Shanahan,
Right.
McVay. Those coaches are really, and even KOC, I'd put him in there too, because they're all, just like name. You had to say KOC was good, yeah, because he's making them relevant. And they've been in the playoffs just about every time, and he's made quarterbacks good in that system. I mean, I'm not saying he's the best in my opinion, but
he had a lot to do with the Vikings drafting J.J. McCarthy, Kevin O'Connell. Don't tell me he didn't. I don't know what went on behind the scenes, but he obviously did. If J.J. McCarthy doesn't work out, it's on Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah.
If he's injured and can never play, I wouldn't blame Kevin O'Connell. But if they evaluated poorly, the same way as John Elway, this so-called quarterback guru, he drafted dreadfully quarterbacks, when he was a Denver executive.
Yeah, well, if somebody called Elway a quarterback guru, they were freaking out of their mind, because there's no way he might have been a good quarterback, but drafting quarterbacks is not something he was good at.
He was awful.
Yeah, he's awful. It's bad. All right, next topic. Was Clemson coach Dabo Swinney justified in clapping back at the media after Clemson's loss last week?
No, he wasn't justified. He wasn't justified. You could feel a certain way. With Dabo Swinney, there was a feeling of entitlement because he'd had such success in the past, but he hadn't had recent success. But he came into this season kind of gloating, like Clemson was back. They were contending for the national championships. They were so good. And all of a sudden he turns around, he's 1-2. You mean to tell me the media can't criticize you when you have a team with all these expectations and you start out at 1-2? Agree with them. The guys, I agree with you. We've been disappointing, but we are going to find the answer. We got to get this right. I'm as shocked as anyone what's going on. Obviously, I'm not doing things the correct way. That's the approach you take. Instead, he says, well, if you don't want to win, then get rid of me. But they're not winning. They're not winning. Okay, it kind of reminds me of the documentary that Billy Crystal did called 61. It was on Roger Maris early in that historic season. The press was criticizing Roger Maris because he wasn't hitting. And Ralph Houck's manager says, don't criticize Roger. He does other things to help us win. And then when the media guy says, but you're not winning, Ralph. And so the manager just glares at him. That's the case. You're not winning, Dabo. Just shut your mouth and, and go along with it. And then start winning games. Like Bill Parcells says, what your record says you are, and they're 1-2. Big disappointment. And the last couple of years have been disappointments. He's flat out wrong. Even if he feels he's a heck of a coach, he's not getting it done. And sometimes the best response is no response. And Dabo just should have gone along with the flow and let it be at that. But we're talking about him now because he couldn't resist but to clap back from his end.
Well, the quote that he said, and let everybody be aware of what he said, if Clemson's tired of winning, they can send me on my way, but I'm going to go somewhere else and coach. I ain't going to the beach. I'm 55. I got a long way to go. God, I feel old just saying that. But anyway, I'm a year older than him. Damn. But yes, I mean, I think he's throwing more of a shot at the school. Maybe the school's applying pressure on him. I think that's what it is, and he just took it out on the media. I mean, I don't think he directed. I don't think he was angry at the media. I think just something, meeting with the school powers, and they're saying, "Look, dude, you're 1-2. You should be winning games." He's probably took exception to that kind of thing, because I'm sure they have meetings all the time about this stuff. Coaches and the dean and all that, all the powers to be at the school. And they said, "Look, you're not getting the job done, dude. You gotta win some games here. We got sponsors we gotta pay, and blah 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 this and blah 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 that." And he probably took exception to it. Like, look, I'm doing the best I can with what I got. So, and then somebody just set him off in the media, and that's when he went blah blah blah.
Yeah, I'm going to turn over to James in a second. Maybe he's getting pressure behind the scenes from the school over his refusal to use the transfer portal, being one of the last big school holdouts with that. And they might be saying it very quiet, urging him, and he's refusing, and he's being stubborn. And if they do fire him, ultimately, that might be the reason why.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. That was one of the points I was going to bring up, is that the only knock on him would be that he refuses to use the transfer portal, which is unreal, because you can point to examples. LSU's defense last year was not great at all. They spent $18 million to revamp their defense. They just got 5 interceptions against a quarterback in Florida. So it works. It works. It virtually the NCAA's version of free agency. So you definitely want to take advantage of that and bring players in from other schools. If you have your principles, fine. Your principles are going to get you fired, because the game has changed. It is totally different from what you used to do. You were able to, and I get it. I totally get it. I'm going to say, I'm going to side with him to the fact that he has the resume to say that he's done what he's done. I mean, my man, 181 wins to 49 losses. He's been a coach at Clemson since 2008. He's got a 7.87 win percentage. He's got 9 ACC championships, and he's been to 4 championships, and he won 2, 16 and 18. And so the resume is there. It's there for him to be a great coach. And so him saying what he said to the media, I don't have a problem with it, because of how he's backing it up. He has, you can say like Deion's flashy and he did this and that, but he backed it up on the field. Now, mind you, they're 1-2 this year, so they're having some issues. They're not quite where they want to be. I think losing is what brings about all these other issues, and people talking and saying you should be quiet. If they were winning and he said something like this, nobody be saying anything. As a matter of fact, they'd be like, cheering him on and gloating along with him. But he never gloated like that. He never put that stuff out there about his wins and anything like that. I think it's a matter of he's feeling the pressure. And like he said, and I believe him, if he gets fired, some great school is going to drop either their bad coach, probably Alabama. He's already an Alabama alum. So, I think there's a hot seat for the coach that's there now. They're already, even though they won their last game against Wisconsin, we don't know what's going on there. If he gets fired, maybe he goes back to Alabama and does the same. But what I will say, he has to change his mentality regarding the transfer portal. There's no way you're going to be successful. You got to do that. It is what it is. And I agree with you, Jack, on that point in regards to maybe they said something behind the scenes and they're probably quietly saying that. So I do agree with that, but I don't have a problem with him saying what he said at the podium because of his record. Because of what he's done.
But James, it's also the way he said it, the tone of his voice. Consider that. He didn't just say it like casually. Look, if I ever got fired, I would coach somewhere else. He could say, I enjoy coaching here. I want to spend the rest of my career here. But if the school ever decided they were going to move on from me, I would get a job somewhere else and I'd still continue coaching. I wouldn't retire. If he said it just casually, it would still be news. But the way he said it, he was really annoyed.
Yeah, I think it was just a frustration of probably conversations that have been happening in the school, him not doing the portal thing. And he just probably just lashed out when he heard a question, and like I said, he's right to do. He's a human being. He's done a lot for that school. He's an accomplished coach. I mean, he's going to say, what do you want me to do? Throw his hands up in the air. What do you want me to do? I said, if you don't think I'm doing a good job, fire me. I'll go coach somewhere else. I'm only 50.
Well, I'll tell you this. He won't get a job elsewhere at a big school if he ever got fired. If during the interview process he said, I'm not going to use the transfer portal, no one would hire him.
That might be true. I could see that. Yeah. Okay. On to the next topic. Okay. Right now, I'm just going to set this up for you. Right now, the LA Dodgers are in first place in the NL West. They do have a 4-game lead over the San Diego Padres, and they have won 7 of the last 10 games, and they got a 3-game winning streak now. However, at the start of the season, the Dodgers were overwhelming favorites to repeat as World Series champions. But the playoff and during the season, they've had some really bad losses. They've had some bad streaks. Their bullpen is like not existent, although it's getting better. But with the playoffs near, should the Dodgers still be regarded as favorites? I'll put this one in check.
Yeah, to me, yes. I think, James, you're going to be able to kind of connect the dots with other sports, because I think the Dodgers situation is similar to the Dallas Cowboys situation under Jimmy Johnson the second year when they repeated the Super Bowl champions under Jimmy Johnson. They weren't that good during the regular season, and the Cowboys had to win that overtime game against the Giants to win the division and get the bye. But by the time the playoffs rolled around, they were mostly the old Dallas Cowboys from the year before. And that's what I think you're going to have with the Dodgers. They were overwhelming favorites. And even with an off year, they're going to win their division. They'll be in the playoffs. And by the time the playoffs roll around, that's all that matters, how you're playing at the time. I mean, I'm hearing in New York here about the Mets. They've won their last couple of games, but the Mets were dreadful for a while. They were in danger and maybe not making the playoffs. They're still not guaranteed to make it, even though they probably will. And I was telling Met fans, and I'm not a Met fan, the Mets will be okay for the playoffs. What's going on now is irrelevant. I see teams turn it around all the time. I've seen teams playing great going into the playoffs, not play well in the playoffs. Momentum in baseball isn't that important. It's not that important, or it could be a momentum could start up very quickly and end very quickly in baseball. And I think that's the case you're going to find with the Dodgers. They have the best players. And when all is said and done, it won't be the Brewers. It won't be the Cubs in the National League. It'll be the Dodgers. And they'll beat the American League representative, and they'll repeat.
Well, I like your analogy regarding the Dallas Cowboys and how they played, in during the season and turned it on at the end and were able to get in repeat. But my question is, how often does that happen? This is where I may have to say that history may have play a part in that. I mean, particularly in baseball. The last time someone repeated was when? 2000, right? That was the New York Yankees. And they were a high-priced team. So that might play into your argument because this is a high-priced team, and so they may come back and do. I mean, but the biggest thing is pitching. They got to go up against either the Phillies, they got to go up against, or the Brewers. The Brewers are just pretty tough, and they're not an expensive team at all. They're 115 million. I mean, that's just not that bad at all. And so they got a gauntlet to go through if they're gonna get there. They have the talent, they have the pitching, I think. Ohtani looks like he's in rare form again to just go, to be dominant. But it's hard to repeat. They're plus 300 to 350. I don't think they can do it. I'll be honest with you. I just think it's going to be hard. There's a possibility that they can get there, but the history suggests that it's just hard to go and do that and repeat. But they may, because do they mirror? Just my question to you: do they mirror the 2000 Yankees in regards to talent and being able to repeat?
I'm glad you mentioned the 2000 Yankees lost 15 of their last 18 regular season games. They only had 87 wins on the season. And then their first playoff game, they lost that to Oakland, best 3 out of 5. And then they eventually won in 5 games, then went on to beat Seattle, and then went on to beat the Mets in the World Series. So much for momentum. The Yankees basically were falling apart going into the playoffs. They could hardly win a game. But, but you make a good point. The Brewers might be ready for a breakthrough finally. Maybe the Dodgers get upended. It is hard to repeat. But keep in mind, sometimes we talk comparisons with teams, and we might even say, well, one team against another team. This team beat them the last 4 times they played in series. But some of these players on the current team were 6 years old when, the first of those series were played. So, how do you count that? But it sounds good because you attach the names to it.
Yeah, I think that it's the fact that you could have an all-star roster and still not win. Yankees have done that too. They've had all-star rosters and still not made the World Series. So there's that. Example of another sport, the 2003 Pistons, 2004 Pistons, and they beat the Lakers, who had their roster was stacked, but they beat them in 5 games. So in a championship, although it was a championship, but it's the same principle. Right now, they're having trouble beating the Phillies. Their season series against the Phillies is not good at all. So if they run into them in the playoffs, I mean, that's a team you did not mention, Jack, in the National League, was the Phillies. You said the Milwaukee Brewers, which I kind of agree with you because they tend to fall apart in the playoffs. And I mean, historically, doesn't mean they're going to do it this year. The Mets, they're not playing their best baseball either. I'm not even the Chicago Cubs. I like them, but it doesn't mean they're going to do anything. So the Phillies, to me, stand out in that conference. I think that they're miles ahead of everybody right now. Well, not miles ahead of it, but at least certain measures above most of the teams in the National League. So right now, we would pick Philadelphia over everybody in the National League. I just don't think it's really hard to repeat in any sport. So, when you get anomalies like Kansas City Chiefs, the Lakers, New York Yankees, I mean, those are anomalies. Those are just good teams that know how to win over a consistent period of time, but it doesn't always happen like that. Even those teams don't repeat all the time either. So to repeat as a champion, I just don't see the Dodgers doing that. I mean, they've gotten so many superlatives this year about records. They got beat by Colorado in one game, and it set the record for the most runs in the game that the Dodgers ever gave up at home. And then they proceeded to get beat again by another team. I think it was San Diego. They got beat again and set the mark even higher for as many times they got beat. So, I mean, and that was just this year. So, I mean, when you see stuff like that, it kind of tells you, I don't think Shatani, that's good. I'm glad you got him, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to chalk him in for a championship. So let's see. On the opposite spectrum of that, I think we can sneak this in here. Tell me if we're going to be able to sneak this one in here, Jack. The Tigers were to have a complete meltdown and lose division lead. Would that be the worst of all time?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about it. And the answer would be no. What was the Tigers' peak lead, Brian? Was it like 12 games or 13 games?
About 11 and a half. It was about 11 and a half. 12,
yeah. I think if you look at baseball history, it's a lot different because even if the Tigers melt down and lose the division, and they're probably not going to lose the division. What are they up by right now? Like
2.5.
2.5. and it's sinking all the time, and they're playing terribly. But the same thing happened to the Tigers. I think it was in 2006. They had a similar lead, and they completely blew that lead, fell apart, and things were so bad. Even though the Tigers were guaranteed of being in the playoffs, their manager, Jim Leland, pitched their ace, Kenny Rogers, on the last game of the season just so they wouldn't blow the division. That's how much winning the division meant to them. And there was no buy at stake, to pitch their ace. Just the pride of winning the division meant a lot, only because they had such a big lead and they were disgusted that they might not win the division, which they didn't, okay, as it turned out. But the Tigers got in the playoffs, and lo and behold, things turned around. After they lost the first game 3 out of 5 to the Yankees, they won the next 3. Then they swept the Oakland Athletics 4 straight to go to the World Series, where they lost to the Cardinals. But just the idea, their meltdown, they were still guaranteed a spot in the playoffs. Like this Tiger team, they can blow the division this last week. They'll still be in the playoffs, and they can still get it together. But it wasn't the same in the past. The most famous comeback was 1951 with the New York Giants overtaking the Brooklyn Dodgers, which culminated in the famous home run by Bobby Thompson off Ralph Franca. It's thought of 1964, the Philadelphia Phillies had a 6-game lead with 10 games to play. And there was no wild card. Only one team in the National League and one in the American League went to the World Series. There were no playoffs. 6-game league with 10 games to play. Their manager, Gene Mauch, the Philly manager, started to panic. So he only pitched his best 2 pitchers, Jim Bunning and Chris Short, no pun intended, on short rest. Okay? And they blew that lead. And the Cardinals ultimately overtook them and then won the World Series. 1978, the Red Sox had a 14-game lead on the Yankees in the summer. Yankees came back, but wasn't a choke job because the Red Sox, after blowing the lead, won their last 8 games in a row to force a 1-game playoff that they lost to the Yankees. And of course, I'm mentioning the 2006 Tigers. You still have a playoff path to get to the World Series. So it would kind of be like football, a team blowing a lead and blowing their division, having a big divisional lead, but still having enough cachet over the season to get to the playoffs where they can redeem themselves.
But that has to happen. I mean, what you just mentioned, football, we're talking about the Eagles, for instance. We just brought that up, how they had a complete meltdown the year prior.
Okay.
And they still got to the playoffs, and they got lambasted. They got beat. Same thing with Philadelphia. The Pittsburgh Steelers last year. They did the same thing. Now, mind you, they can only play 1 game, at a time. In baseball, it's a little different. You're playing a series, so you have a chance to redeem yourself with a few more games in the playoffs. So would it be the most complete meltdown? I think if we were to see, it's really hard to answer this question because I guess you got to we have to look into a crystal ball to determine what they're going to do in the playoffs. We don't know what they're going to do in the playoffs because again, this is the sort of question you, I guess, would ask after they lost or they won and went to the the championship. I just don't think I could really answer that. I don't, because it's just, that's the way I see it. I would have to see what they do later, but I just think that it still will be tough. I think it's going to be tough on them if they were not to lose a division. That's demoralizing a little bit and humbling. So what do you do? I mean, your fans, you upset your fans. So it could be considered a complete meltdown, especially when you were just dominant, in the first half of the season, and this start happening. So I would consider it a meltdown, but only if I saw that they still snuck into the playoffs and just got wiped out in the first round.
Yeah, but the point is, you mentioned the Philadelphia Eagles. The year before last, they staggered into the playoffs. But had they won and gone to the Super Bowl, it wouldn't have mattered. My Jet team years ago, many moons ago, they started the season at 10-1, had the best record in the NFL, and then they lost their last 5 games of the regular season. They fell apart. They blew, home. They had to play in the extra game in the wild card round rather than get the bye. And they won that game over Kansas City. And then they were beating the Cleveland Browns 20-10 with 4.5 minutes to go. And Cleveland would have had to punt, but Mark Gastineau had this dumb roughing the passer penalty that opened the floodgates, and then they lost. But the point is, despite the meltdowns of the regular season, you always remember it for what you do in the playoffs. You only remember the meltdown if you don't succeed in the playoffs, because James rightfully remembered the Eagle meltdown because they didn't succeed in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think the thing that you have to realize about this Tigers team is there is a caveat about them having a 12.5 game lead in there. I just looked this up. If they do lose a division lead, this will be the first time in Major League history that a team that had a 12.5 game lead in their division lost the division. On top of that, you got to remember the Tigers were the number 1 team for a while in the whole major leagues. They had that record. I'm not saying they were played that way. I'm just talking about record-wise.
That's not true. The Red Sox had a 14-game lead over the 1978 New York Yankees. 14-game lead in the Yankees.
14, you sure about
won
that?
the division. Yeah, it was 14 games in July or something. Late July. Or close to it. They've gotten it up to 14 games, so this isn't the biggest lead in Major League history. Whoever posted that is a little bit off.
Well,
it's up there.
I gotta look at that just to make sure. But I saw that was the most. But anyway, but even then, still, that's quite a feat to be 12.5 in your division. And this isn't even July. They had this all the way going into August. And they're if they've lost, they're only 2.5 now. And they're losing. They've lost a 3-game set to the Cleveland Indians / Guardians. I still call them Indians. And they lost to Atlanta, the first game in Atlanta. Now, Atlanta's not the best team in the world, obviously, but it's a team that the Tigers should beat, but they're not. It's just like their pitchers are just like, I don't know what's going on with the Tigers, but they are god awful right now. God awful, and I don't see them even if they manage to squeak into the playoffs, even if they win a division. I can't even guarantee you if they're going to make it out of the first round. I can't. It's
like our good co-host says, Keith Engel says, do the fundamentals. That's what they just got to do. They got.
Which is funny because Keith, I was telling Keith, the Yankees are, they win games by hitting home runs, right? That's what he says. But if you switch the Tigers have switched that around. Where they used to be using the fundamentals and playing the game that way. Now they're hitting home runs to try to win games. That's telling me right there's a problem. So whatever happens, I wish the best for them. I just don't have any faith in them right now. On that note, we are going to conclude this show. Again, another great debate. Thank you again, James and Jack, for being on the show. Everybody have a good rest of your day. And if you've been paying attention to the bottom scroll, we've had our lineup of national streaming sports shows that are coming up. Pay attention to that. Join us. Everybody have a great rest of your day.